In his endless search for praise and confirmation, the emperor began to look beyond China's borders.
He was particularly concerned to ensure that nobody would question his legitimacy. And one way of proving that was to have lots and lots of rulers from elsewhere come and acknowledge his heavenly position as son of heaven. And that was important to him.
In the Confucian universe, the world was neatly ordered in a social hierarchy, with the emperor at the very top. His job, to maintain harmony between heaven and earth. If foreign rulers could be persuaded to offer tribute, the emperor believed the gods would indeed smile on him, and his dynasty would last forever. Zheng He's mission, therefore, was to bring the world to its knees.
He was not sent to go and look for new places. What he was looking for were any rulers who could be persuaded to acknowledge Emperor Yongle.
Exacting tribute was an art in itself, and Zheng He was a true master of diplomacy. Much like power broking today, rulers were wined and dined, seduced by demonstrations of China's finest. Local rulers were expected to offer tribute. In return, China would agree to trade, an ancient most favored nation treaty of sorts. Envoys were invited to board the ship for the long journey to China, so they could offer these gifts in person to the emperor himself. The most extraordinary of these were rare animals never seen before in China. The creature that amazed the court the most was a present from the ruler of Malindi in present-day Kenya, one solemn giraffe.
Extraordinary how this giraffe was brought in these ships across the Indian Ocean. And the Mandarins are fascinated, and they had tried to find in their classical text some way of naming this animal which I've never seen before. They found classical terms, and they wrote poetry to it, they painted it, and they generally thought this was the most remarkable creature indeed.
But if a ruler did not like the idea of becoming China's vassal, there was always the threat of military force.
The first years of Yongle's reign were marked by violence. The invasion of Vietnam, of Dai Viet, the invasion of a number of Thai polities in what is today Yunnan province, and the sending of these huge maritime missions abroad. Anyone who looks at the actions which occurred during those voyages will see that they were certainly not intended to be peaceful or friendly.
Military force proved that China would stop at nothing to protect its interests. By restricting trade with China to countries that offered tribute, the emperor sought to establish a state-run monopoly on international trade.
He did this by turning up with 25 to 30,000 armed men, a fleet of up to 200 plus ships, and suggested that the people might like to either demonstrate some sort of submission to the Ming or face the consequences.
Chinese court records for the 6th of July 1411 describe how Zheng He, provoked by rebel attacks on his ship, leads an army to the capital of Ceylon, where he captures its king for disrespecting the emperor.
They were heavily armed ships, bearing the best weapons of the age. They were intended to dominate. They were intended to institute a Pax Ming through the region, through the maritime realm.
But some historians believe there were good reasons for the fleet to be armed.
Yes, they were armed, the ships were armed, there were lots of soldiers and sailors on board. and they have to after defend the majesty of the emperor, so they could not allow these ships to be taken by pirates or to be seized by the local rulers. So they have to be pretty strongly guarded.
Zheng He's armada had become a formidable power on the sea, and the message spreads throughout the ports of call: pay tribute to China, or be prepared to pay the cost.